Dawn of DC. It's been underway for a little bit, time of recording. And some of you are asking, what do I think? And I think that means that you want to talk about it. Now, I haven't read everything in Dawn of DC, but I've read a couple of the bigger ones. I thought it would be fun to just chat about the event, how it's going, what I've read, and just, let's actually be casual. And yes, when I say the mainstream ones, that even means Green Arrow. And if you've been here a while, you know that's a big deal because he knows what he did. So Dawn of DC, it's basically a soft, very soft relaunch of a bunch of titles in the DC universe. So far, nothing too drastic has changed canonically. We'll see how that keeps going. And also there's a bit more of a nod towards fan servicey moments or things that fans been talking about or seemingly wanting to see for a while, be that characters or certain happenings inside the comics themselves. And there's also some new characters being launched. Lots of those were debuted in Lazarus Planet during that event. Event-ish? Can it be called an event? It was 2 main issues and then a bunch of tie-ins. Now in March, there was an aggressively long creator interview with some of the people who are going to be spearheading some of the bigger comics, but not everybody was there, but there were a lot of people who were handling some titles, and oh my word, what an interview. It's worth reading if you have the time. There are many interesting quotes and there's some interesting banter / sniping / banter. It really depends how you read it. I'm sure it reads different than it sounded. It was a Zoom interview. There were so many people that I want to do a dramatic reading with somebody. And I want to be Chip Zdarsky because he's also Canadian. But I feel like depending upon who was there and who I was doing it with, I might get typecast as Tinny Howard. She's the only woman there in that interview. But nay, I say, I will be Chip. Anyway, in that interview, Joshua Williamson, who handled Dark Crisis, was led to Dawn of DC, even though you don't really need to read that to come into these titles. They'll give you editor's notes if they really need you to know anything. Well, he stated these things about Dawn. We wanted to be a bright and poppy DC universe, and we had a lot of goals in sort of making the books feel a bit more light, but still having high stakes, still having danger. I wanted us very much get down to what we love about the characters and then build on that and add to that mythology and then keep that ball going forward. So basically it looks like they're trying to work with the archetypal, iconic versions of the characters. The ones that have wormed their way into the popular consciousness over time. Although there is also that line, what we love about the characters, so we'll have to see how that plays out for all the different creators. Hopefully what they love is in line with the core tenets of the character. Looking at you, Tom King. Now, in a way, this could be considered a back to basics approach, which would work, but it may be a tad reductive when they're talking about going back to so many of the almost mythological elements, the building blocks of the characters in that regard. But these stories for the classic characters are meant to be coming out of a place that is central to their core beings. A reconstruction, not a deconstruction, basically. And also they're supposed to be a focus on exciting adventure, not so much dour things. Bright and poppy. So how is that going? Well, the first Dawn of DC title to come out, and the first I read, was Superman by Joshua Williamson and Jamal Campbell on art. We did a whole video on this channel. I've talked about it in text-based reviews over on Kofi and here on YouTube memberships. Now this is a more casual video, so we're gonna do a generalized impression. It's gonna be less intensive and going over all the pros and cons, just a kind of overview and general feelings. We're just chatting, friendly like. What a nice conversation. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it. The book is decently fast-paced and has a strong DCAU Superman TAS vibe. It's pulling a lot of classic Superman villains to the fore, which is very fun. And they're also laying the groundwork to introduce some new characters like Marilyn Moonlight, who we did a brief video on, just like, oh, she exists, because that's pretty much all there is to go on at the moment. The general premise, though, is, stop me if you've heard this one before, Superman and Lex need to team up because of circumstances. This despite the fact that Lex just made it so that Superman's secret identity is no longer known to the whole world. And to that I say, thank you, Lex. I know not everybody feels that way, but I do. So Lex, despite Superman / Clark, because he still knows who he is, has set up his company as Supercorp. Guess he really liked the idea of Kara and his sister too. A little CW Supergirl joke there for you. He's left his company to be managed by Superman, but there's more to it than that, and the League of Evil Super Scientists, or whatever they're actually calling themselves, will reveal their true purpose in good time. Are they there to get Superman, Lex, both? What's happening? It's a mystery. But they seem to be modifying Superman's enemies to send them up against him. So you're gonna get to see these enemies, but with something a bit different about them. So that makes it a bit more fun too. Now, despite being very action-based, this comic does also have some nice character moments, though some aren't gonna go for this Lex characterization. I've also seen some rankle at how beefcakey Clark is drawn here. There's more to discuss with this one because there have been more issues. By the time this video is out, there should be 4. On the whole, I've really been enjoying it. There is some retreading going on, but that's happening in general with the main DC titles. Lots of them will have plots that will be like, oh, I've seen this before for this character in past comics. In cases like that, for me, it comes down to the execution, who wore it better. And this version of Superman for me is working. It's fun. I'm enjoying reading it. I have not been reading Action Comics, but I need to catch back up so I can continue on with that Power Girl backup, which is spinning into the Power Girl ongoing. That's by Leah Williams. Marguerite Sauvage was doing the art in the backup. I'm not sure if she's still doing it for the main one. So far, not really feeling how they're handling the whole she goes into your mind and punches your trauma elements. And having read a lot of Power Girl, just the base characterization feels a bit off. It very much feels like they're just trying to do something new with her, to try and carve out a space for her, but it's coming across a bit more like they're not entirely sure what to do with Power Girl. The Power Girl struggle. Action Comics is an anthology style book currently, in the sense that it has several stories going on at once. The main one is about the Superman family, and then there are some backups that are ongoing, but they're gonna swap out. Like there's a Convergence Superman backup taking place in the Convergence universe surrounding adventures of young John Kent, because that's where John Kent was born, in Convergence. There's a Steel backup. The main story in this is by Philip Kennedy Johnson, who's been handling Action Comics for some time now. The next title I read was Shazam. This one is by the duo of Mark Waid and Dan Mora. I knew I was gonna get this one no matter what, because I've become quite the fan of Dan Mora's art. I think it's beautiful. The story could be about the heroes eating toast, and I would still want it for the art. Thankfully, the story is much better than heroes just eating toast. Now, for this story, we're taking Captain Marvel, and yes, I'm still calling him that, into a pretty cool fusion territory. And the canon to the rest of the DC universe feels pretty tight in this one. Like, there is an acknowledgement of not only Lazarus Planet and some of the things that happened therein, which not all of the titles have really been paying attention to. There's even seemingly a mention of the time of recording Mary Marvel series, what was going on there, where she had to deal with online hate. This Captain Marvel is pulling from some of the Golden Age shenanigans, his New 52 family structure, and a bit of the movie vibe. And that movie was just big with superheroes. Fun, but that's what it was. Also, it seems to be drawing a little bit from the sequel because there's some gods hanging around and they're none too pleased with Billy. So this comic has things like Billy having tea with space dinosaurs. It's an issue that's pretty much all exposition and setup, but it's handled in a way where it doesn't feel clunky or boring. We see the types of adventures that Billy has, how he got his nickname of the Captain, which is how we're going to call him that inside the comic because they're not going to call him Shazam. We meet some of his supporting cast, and the narration boxes tell us about the differences between Billy and the Captain as he himself views them. He's kind of compartmentalized. The hints of conflicts are that he's being watched by gods at the Rock of Eternity who are not impressed with how he's conducting himself. They feel he's not being godly enough. And also, online hate. It's on people's minds apparently. Billy runs a fan cast about the Captain, and they don't dwell on it too much, so the comments and speech come across more genuine. They avoid the standard, "What up, it's your boy," which many of the comics that have dealt with streamers, podcasters, online content creators have dubbed. They've been using that a lot. It was cute at first. It felt like a little inside joke because there are some creators who say that, or they used to. There used to be a lot more who started that way. It's very much fallen out of fashion. But then it became a case where it seemed like every character who showed up in a comic was saying that. And at that point, it begins to betray a very surface level understanding of this little corner of online culture. Now in this issue, something comes over Billy, and so he has a freak out in front of everybody. So he's gonna have to face some online hate. So there'll be that, and then there'll be whatever's gonna go on with the gods, plus all of the other things he has to deal with. I hope it's Mr. Mind. I love Mr. Mind. Just an evil rampaging caterpillar. It's so much fun. Some of the Golden Age concepts where they just went for it, it's really enjoyable. I have not been reading the Dawn of DC John Kent. I don't know why I sound so peppy about that. Just like, woo, not reading. It's not like that. It's just, I'm in a good mood. This one is tying into the Injustice universe, so I do want to check that one out because I want to see how they handle the Ultraman trauma from all that time that John spent in that volcano. But from what I've seen in passing, I don't know, I may not enjoy it. Fingers crossed that that's not the case. The next one I read was Green Arrow by Joshua Williamson. He's just doing everything. Let the man sleep. The art in this is by Sean Isaacs. Now this is an Arrow family book, and Williamson made that clear, as well as his love for the Green Arrow. Just that universe. There's a lot of little Easter eggs in there. Also his enthusiasm and the fact that fans respond to it seem to have gotten this extended from a mini-series to a maxi-series, and we'll see how it goes from there. So if you like Green Arrow, get on that, because it's been a while since he's had a potential ongoing. My hair is just, it doesn't want to be hazed. Now, Oliver Queen got lost in space and time at the end of Dark Crisis. And this story, well, it's retrying some mid-aughts plot lines, because we've had this plot where it looked like Ollie was dead, only Black Canary and Batman believed he was alive, they were looking for him. So there's shades of that, but it seems to be setting up a fun premise. And the way they're handling it is a bit different, because they know he's alive, and so we get to jump in between them more directly right away. Now, most of this issue is spent on exposition and fan service. Now, Ollie is definitely a character in this book, which for me means that he's mildly irritating. Come with us, human. There will be no escape. No man can. I think you mean no person. He'll be back in the main verse calling Hal a Nazi any minute now. Also, you may be wondering, who is that mint-haired girl? Well, in a moment that is going to win over a lot of people and admittedly made me smile, spoilers. The spoilers are for the story, not for me smiling. Also, yes, spoiler warning right in the middle of the video. A bit late, but better late than never, I guess. Roy gets to reunite with Leanne, his daughter. That's Leanne. She's been lurking around since Future State, but now they're back together again. It made me happy. I always enjoyed the Roy was a dad plot. I never liked Cry for Justice and the way she died there. Just side note, it's totally fine if you like comics other people don't, and vice versa. Go for it. Enjoy what you enjoy. I'm sure there are people who like Cry for Justice, and there's no judgment here. I like Identity Crisis. I know I can feel you all unsoft. I can say that saying that everything that people say that's wrong with that that is true and valid. I still like it. Anyway, having Leanne back in this comic does potentially sidestep whatever they were doing with her in Catwoman, and it is very abrupt and even has an in-canon waving away of how she's alive. Roy's just like, I don't care how or why, and that does make sense for him, but it also has a bit of a shh to the reader, like shh, don't ask questions, just let it happen. And your miles may vary on whether that's going to work for you or not, or if you're going to enjoy that moment or not. Also, it depends on whether you have a history with Roy and Leanne or are connected to those two characters. There's a lot of factors. But overall, not much happened in this issue. But if you've been missing the Arrow fam and want to see some looking for Ollie across the multiverse, they're also pulling out, oh, they can never go home, and so there's a mystery there, like why can't Ollie go back? So if that sounds like something that you're looking for, this is the comic for you. I did not read The Spirit World, which introduces the new character Xanth. Well, it doesn't introduce, that happened in Lazarus Planet, but this is the first full issue. It does look like it has some potential. It's playing with different mythologies and magics, so that's always fun. It has Cassandra Cain in it. It's written by Alyssa Wong with art by Haining. That part is what stuck with me. I followed Haining for a while. They've done a lot of DC fan art, a lot of Superbat fan art, so it's neat to see them illustrating a whole comic. I'm not sure if this is their first or not. I'm not following them that closely, but I just remember really liking their stuff whenever I saw it online on the fan forums. A decent amount of artists start off doing fan art. It's not that odd. Now the last one I've read, time of recording, come on. You know what it is. You know, come on, the return of Hot Mess Hal Jordan. Hal Hot Mess Jordan. I couldn't not read Green Lantern. Featuring allegedly the greatest Green Lantern of all time and a backup starring Jon Stewart, which will eventually become its own comic. This was the one where when it was initially released, it was said to be by Mariko Tamaki, and then the artist was TBD, and the initial response to that was varied. It didn't elicit a universally positive reaction, and then the writer was later announced as Jeremy Adams. There is a curious part of me that wants to live in that reality where Mariko Tamaki happened. I just want to know what it would be like. I'm so curious. As it stands, we got Jeremy Adams and we got art by Germanico, and this was just a very solid Green Lantern story, mostly in the fact that Hal felt like Hal. The last Hal Jordan comic we got was Grant Morrison's, which promised a back to basics look at Hal Jordan and Green Lantern. Now, while that run did reference Silver Age things and moments, it did not have a back to basics vibe. This does. Hal is reckless but charming, though not as charming as he thinks he is, but usually charming enough to get what he wants. The relationship with him and Carol has that push and pull where they both want to be together, and yet it's probably not the best idea. Hal has no job, no place to live. He's back, basically. Let's get another panel of Superman lecturing him about not having an apartment. If he had tripped over something, this would have been the perfect issue. Can I have that in issue too? Yet despite all of his personal struggles, he's got that heroic instinct and is a good Green Lantern. Now this issue is pretty bare bones, and we've seen Hal start off this way before. The New 52 called and it wants to know, does Hal still need Carol to co-sign the lease on his car? This one doesn't set the world on fire, and the way it's setting things up is a bit looser. It's a bit more in the classic sense. There's not as much urgency in it. You see Sinestro sitting at a bar. You see one of the fights that Hal had in the past, because that already happened a month or so ago. So if you were missing seeing Hal as himself in action, this will probably land, but I can also see it being very meh. Because basically it's Hal comes back to Earth, wills himself a ring, fights a Manhunter, which there was a Manhunter in the Green Arrow issue as well, so that makes it feel a bit like things are tied together. Not in a you need to read everything to understand what's going on, but just in a these feel like they're happening in the same universe, which is a good vibe. The backup story with John was mostly all set up. This one was by Philip Kennedy Johnson with art by Mantos. Jon Stewart is going to have to go up against the Revenant Queen. I don't know, for some reason this backup left me cold, even though it had a lot more direct action than the first story. I think there was a Harley Quinn that was part of Dawn of DC. I have not read that. In general, they staggered the releases, which was pretty smart from a marketing perspective, because then you can always default to having a new title in the news cycle, such as it is for the sites that do report on this kind of thing. You can also increase your net of luring people in or getting people back for those who are interested or deign to maybe take a look at it, if you can reach them again with the marketing, which is a big if. They're not the greatest at putting this stuff out there all the time, most of the time. Now, when they announced they were doing this a while back, I did a video. Basically, the premise of that video was that I was in the wait and see camp and that nothing they presented sounded overly exciting. In general, I'm in the wait and see camp. It takes a lot to get me excited. It's surprising when it happens, which is why I was surprised when I heard they were announcing Golden Age minis, and I felt a little like pitter patter of excitement. But I like to take works as they come, because you never know. Even if you form an initial impression, which of course one does, it's important to try and go into it as open-mindedly as possible, to let it really wash over you for what it is, whatever it is that you're doing. With exception, don't go to some extreme argument like, what about drugs? On the whole, I've been enjoying the part of Dawn of DC that I've participated in so far, which is not all of it. The comics I've read haven't been revolutionary, but they've for the most part either been fun or there is a genuine love and understanding of the characters in play, which is nice to see. The latest Superman even had a bit of a Silver Age vibe with some of the romance that ensued inside of it, which, you know, I always love. By the time this goes up, more will be out. I think there'll be the Brave and the Bold, which is the anthology one, which is essentially Batman Batman Urban Legends Redux. There's gonna be Cyborg, there's going to be Teen Titans, there's a bunch of stuff that's coming out. And I'll be checking out some of that too. Hello, me from the future. I have indeed checked out some of the titles that I just listed, and oh boy. That's another video. Let me know if you want to hear about that. They're really promoting Wonder Woman, which is coming out later, and now they're going, oh, there's gonna be a new Wonder Girl again, but this time she's Diana's daughter again. Oh right, there's Doom Patrol. That was a title. I also did not read that. This is indeed casual. I don't always read everything. There's not time / sometimes I'm reading other things. Like this is the Sandman Mystery Theater. I have it back here, but I'm actively reading it and I want to take my time and enjoy and savor. And then I got really into the Shade again, so I'm reading my favorite Shade stories. There's only so much time. I even posted a community post about how everything was so busy in life right now, which it is, that I wouldn't be posting as much, and then post the video the next day. I've got to work on my timing. But I want to hear, what have you read, if anything? What are you looking forward to, if anything? Have you been enjoying Dawn of DC? Why or why not? Should we do more videos like this? Tell me things down below. While you're down there, please do all YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some of your day to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Form of a video.